The blades were spinning, the wind was blowing, and I was barely getting any electricity. That was the first thing that made me realize I might have made a mistake. Because on paper, this little wind turbine looked like a pretty good deal. It was cheap, it was compact, and it was rated at around 200 watts. 200 watts sounds like something. You see that number and you start doing the math in your head. Maybe it can keep a battery topped up. Maybe it can run some lights. Maybe it can help during a power outage. And for a few $100s, that sounds pretty tempting. But there was a problem. The turbine itself was cheap. Everything I needed to make it actually useful wasn't. And once I started adding everything up, the whole idea started looking very different. So I decided to stop looking at the number on the box and actually test the thing. I wanted to know one simple thing. If I put a cheap wind turbine in a normal backyard, how much electricity am I really going to get? And the answer surprised me, because it wasn't even close to 200 watts. The number that got me interested. Let's start with the number that caught my attention. 200 watts. That's what this turbine was rated for, and if you've never bought a small wind turbine before, that number can be pretty misleading. Because 200 watts sounds like 200 watts, it sounds like something you can actually use. But there's a difference between a turbine being capable of reaching 200 watts and actually producing anything close to that on a normal day. And I didn't really appreciate that difference until I started watching the output myself. This is a vertical axis turbine. Instead of the usual propeller-style blades facing directly into the wind, this one spins around a vertical shaft. It's a simple design. The curved blades catch the wind and rotate the shaft, which drives the generator. And there are some legitimate reasons people like this type of turbine. It doesn't have to constantly turn itself toward the wind. It can accept wind from different directions, and it's relatively compact. So the idea isn't ridiculous. The problem is the environment you're putting it in. Because a turbine doesn't care how impressive its product page looks. It cares about wind. And real wind is messy. The first problem wasn't the turbine. This is something I think a lot of people miss when they see these cheap turbines online. They see a $200 or $300 price tag and think, okay, that's the whole system. It isn't. You need somewhere to mount it. You need wiring. You need a charge controller. You need a battery if you actually want to store the electricity. And if you're trying to power normal household appliances, you probably need an inverter too. Suddenly that cheap turbine isn't a cheap power system anymore. It's just one component. And there's another problem. Where are you going to put it? Because putting a wind turbine in your backyard isn't the same thing as putting one on a hilltop. If you've got trees everywhere, houses around you, fences, buildings, or other things disrupting the airflow, the turbine is dealing with turbulence constantly. You might feel a pretty decent breeze standing in your backyard. That doesn't necessarily mean you've got good wind for a turbine. And this became pretty obvious during the test. The turbine was spinning. But spinning doesn't automatically mean it's producing a useful amount of electricity. So I hooked it up. I wanted to keep the test as realistic as possible. No giant industrial fan. No perfect wind tunnel. No standing there waiting for one giant gust, so I could screenshot the biggest number. I connected the turbine to a battery system and monitored the output over a full week. 7 days, normal weather, whatever wind showed up. That's what it got. And honestly, the first few hours were kind of frustrating. You'd see the blades moving and think, okay, here we go. Then you'd check the output, and it was tiny, a few watts. Then maybe a little more when the wind picked up. Then it would drop again. Sometimes the turbine looked like it was working harder than the number suggested. And that's one of the weird things about small wind turbines. You can see the machine doing something. The blades are moving. The shaft is turning. You can hear it. It feels like electricity should be pouring out of it. But the generator doesn't care how impressive it looks. The only thing that matters is how much electrical energy is actually coming out. Then I got the number. After 7 days, I looked at the data, And this is where the whole thing got interesting. The turbine was rated for around 200 watts peak, but the average output during the test was roughly 18 watts. 18. Not 180, not 100, not even 50. 18 watts average. That's less than 10% of the advertised peak rating. And before you say, well, obviously it's not going to produce 200 watts all the time, you're right. That's not the surprising part. The surprising part is how large the difference can become between the number on the box and the amount of energy you actually collect over time. Because this is what matters if you're trying to use a turbine for something practical. You don't need to know what it can do for 5 seconds. You need to know what it can do tomorrow morning, and the next day, and the day after that. So what does 18 watts actually get you? This is where I think the numbers become much easier to understand. If you somehow averaged 18 watts continuously for 24 hours, that's about 432 watt-hours per day, or roughly 0.43 kilowatt-hours. Now that sounds more useful than just saying 18 watts, but even that number needs some context. A phone charger? No problem. LED lights? Absolutely. A small fan? Sure, depending on the fan. Charging a battery slowly? That's where this kind of turbine starts making more sense. But then you look at the appliances in a normal house, and the numbers get ugly pretty quickly. A hairdryer can pull around 1,500 watts. An electric space heater can be 1,500 watts or more. An electric water heater can use several thousand watts. And central air conditioning, again, thousands of watts while it's running. So suddenly that 200-watt turbine doesn't look like a home generator anymore. And remember, we're not even getting 200 watts most of the time. We're talking about roughly 18 watts average in this test. That's a completely different category of machine. What about the refrigerator? This is where I originally thought things might get interesting. A refrigerator is much closer to the power range of a small wind turbine. Depending on the model and what it's doing, a refrigerator might draw somewhere around 100 to 200 watts while the compressor is running. So you might look at a 200-watt turbine and think, okay, maybe this can run my fridge. Not so fast, because the turbine doesn't produce a steady 200 watts. It doesn't even produce a steady 18 watts. That's an average. There are periods when the output is higher, periods when it's lower, and periods where there's barely anything happening. Meanwhile, the refrigerator doesn't care about your average. When that compressor needs to start, it needs the power right then. That's why you can't just look at 2-watt numbers and assume one can power the other. Energy isn't just about the size of the number. It's about when that energy is available. And this is where the marketing gets interesting. Go online and look at small wind turbines, and you'll see the same pattern over and over. A big watt number, a picture of a nice house, maybe some batteries, maybe a cabin in the mountains, and suddenly this little turbine starts looking like the missing piece of an off-grid lifestyle. And I understand why. It looks good. The idea is good. Free wind, free electricity, no fuel, no giant solar array. Just put a turbine up and let nature do the work. But the wind doesn't work like that, and neither does the math. The number that really matters isn't, what's the maximum power this turbine can make? It's, how much energy will this turbine realistically produce at my location over a year? That's a much less exciting number, but it's the number you should actually be looking for. The $300 isn't really $300. Then I started looking at the cost. Let's say the turbine itself costs around $300. Okay, not terrible. But now you need a way to mount it. You need wiring. You need a charge controller. You probably want a battery if you're storing the power. And if you want normal household AC power, you're going to need an inverter. Now you've got a system, and that system can cost considerably more than the turbine itself. That's when I started asking a different question. Not, does this turbine work? It clearly works. It spins. It produces electricity. The better question is, does the amount of electricity it produces justify the total cost? And that's much harder to answer, because your location matters enormously. If you're on a wide open property with strong, consistent wind, your results could be dramatically different from mine. If you're surrounded by trees and buildings, you could get even less. And that's why I wouldn't take my 18-watt average and assume every backyard will produce 18 watts. That's not how this works. The test is useful because it shows you how far the real world can be from the headline number. So, was the test a failure? Honestly? Not really. And this is where I think it's important to be fair. The turbine isn't useless. It just isn't a replacement for the electrical grid. If you have a cabin with a small battery bank, if you're powering a few lights, if you want supplemental charging, if you're running a low-power off-grid setup, then 18 watts average can still be useful. It just has to be used for the right job. Think of it as a small supplemental charger, not a miniature power plant. And that distinction matters, because if you buy one expecting it to take your house off-grid, you're probably going to hate it. If you buy one knowing that you're going to collect small amounts of energy whenever the wind is available, the exact same machine suddenly makes a lot more sense. The number I would want to see. If I were buying another small wind turbine, I wouldn't start with the peak wattage. I'd want to know the expected energy production at different wind speeds. What does it produce at 5 meters per second? What about 8? What about 10? And most importantly, what's the expected annual energy production at my actual site? Because that's what you can compare against the cost. That's what you can compare against solar, and that's what you can use to estimate whether the thing makes financial sense. A peak rating can't tell you that. My biggest takeaway. The weirdest thing about this test wasn't that the turbine only averaged 18 watts. It was how easy it would have been to look at the box, see 200 watts, and assume I was getting something completely different. And I think that's the trap with a lot of these small energy products. The technology itself can be completely legitimate. The number can even be technically accurate. But if you don't understand the conditions behind that number, you can end up buying something for a job it was never capable of doing. And that's what happened here. The turbine wasn't broken. The generator wasn't fake. The blades were doing exactly what they were supposed to do. There just wasn't enough consistent wind to turn that 200-watt headline into 200 watts of useful electricity. So, would I buy it again? For powering a house? No, not even close. For backup power during a serious outage? Also no. I'd want a much larger system, and I'd want to know exactly what the local wind resource looks like first. But for a small cabin, boat, battery bank, or just supplemental off-grid power? Maybe. And that's probably the fairest conclusion I can give you. This isn't a miracle generator. It's not going to make your electric bill disappear. It's not going to run your air conditioner. And the 200-watt number doesn't mean you're getting 200 watts whenever the blades are spinning. What I actually got was around 18 watts average over the week I tested it. And that number is a lot less exciting, but it's also a lot more useful. Because when you're spending your own money, you don't need the most exciting number. You need the honest one. Peak power tells you what the turbine can do. Real-world average production tells you what you're actually buying. And after seeing the difference for myself, I'll take the second number every time.